On page 195 of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest by Ken Kesey, Chief Broadman says the following paragraph. The main characters, Bromden and McMurphy, do everything in their power to keep their freedom throughout the novel. They get their inmates to gamble, they order prostitutes, and practically do as they please. The two men taunt Nurse Ratched and disobey her. From these actions, I understood that during the time of this novel, gender roles had a large impact. Men refused to have their freedom ripped from them, especially by a woman. They acted dramatically, specifically by having prostitutes visit them in their wards to show the nurse that they run things. The men continuously, without hesitation, do what they please, even if it resulted in the punishments of electroshock or lobotomy. McMurphy and Bromden's pride was so high they refused to allow women to control them in any aspect throughout the book. Kesey expresses the themes of madness and power in numerous ways, one being the strict system Nurse Ratched uses to keep the asylum under organized lockdown. The insaneness of the inmates drives them to disobey the rules in every possible way. The more one attempts to control these men, the more ideas are sparked up in their minds to lash out and show the nurse who's boss. Women during this time were proved to not be taken seriously. The example of the men not listening to Nurse Ratched and the prostitutes coming in is to be used by the men only for pleasure demonstrates the weakness of women's voice.
They're out there, black boys in white suits up before me to commit sex acts in the hall and get it mopped up before I can catch them. They're mopping when I come out of the dorm, all three of them sulky and hating everything, the time of day, the place they're at here, the people they got to work around. When they hate like this, better if they don't see me. I creep along the wall, quiet as my dust in my canvas shoes, but they got special sensitive equipment to detect my fear, and they all look up, all three at once, eyes glittering out of the black faces like the hard glitter of radio tubes out of the back of an old radio. Here's the chief, the Supa chief, fellas. Old Chief Broom. Here you go, Chief Broom. Stick a mop in my hand and motion to the spot they aim for me to clean today, and I go. One swats the back of my legs with the broom handle to hurry me past. Haw, you look at. I'm Shagget, but big enough to eat apples off my head, and he mind me like a baby. They laugh, and then I hear them mumbling behind me, heads close together, hum of the black machinery, humming hate and death and other hospital secrets. They don't bother not talking out loud about their hate secrets when I'm nearby because they think I'm deaf and dumb. Everybody thinks so. I'm cagey enough to fool them that much. If my being half Indian ever helped me in any way in this dirty life, it helped me being cagey, helped me all these years.
The speaker is Chief Broadman, and it is in first person. The choice affects the readers to make the connection that the character does not speak. Therefore, other inmates think he cannot hear as well. The author is directing the specific prompt to vulnerable audiences, like Broadman. The purpose of these 3 paragraphs is for the author to tell the audience who has a voice in the hospital and who is in charge. The central topic focuses on the authoritative rules. Through the use of simile, the tone is arrogance for the inmates, making jokes toward Bromden. The tone for Bromden is slick, superior in his own way. A fog machine is introduced in the novel as a symbol that represents the idea of being trapped in their own world with no escape. Fog makes it difficult to see things ahead, and in the novel, the psychopathic inmates are blurred by their own schizophrenic thoughts that make it hard for them to interpret things the way others do. The fog can also be understood as a safety mechanism for the insane patients. They can use it as a sense of a barrier protecting them from what they do not understand from the outside world. These men will never experience reality the way normal people do. Randall McMurphy is one of the patients that helps get everybody out of the fog once he's transported from the hospital to the asylum. Another symbol would be the electroshock therapy table. This technology is used as a source of punishment for patients who refuse to follow ordered rules. It is also one of the main objects that gives Nurse Ratched power. But this does not scare the men. It is described as a form of a cross in the novel. One would just lay as Jesus did when he was being crucified. The symbol would be sacrification made by men. They take the responsibility to misbehave as an outcome, receiving electroshock therapy, an extremely painful source of harm. Over time, this affects the way the brain functions sooner or later, frying it for good. The outside world is a symbol in the book. It is described simply, but it can be taken as a complex idea. There are 2 main dividing settings, the asylum and the outside world. The asylum keeps the patients within their own understanding of the way things work. It adjusts to their comfort. In Ken Kesey's novel, the psychological perspective is the main focus, considering the plot movement is based off of characters in an insane asylum. Mental retardation is inferred in various scenes and is stereotyped with the inability to take care of oneself for the rest of one's life. Many disorders are demonstrated throughout the book, being given to certain characters. Kesey aligns the mental illnesses of the patients in the asylum accordingly and explains the correct responses one would give in reality. There is proof in the text that the author conducted firm research that matches up with the disorders. A patient, Dale Harding, is handed obsessive-compulsive disorder. This is the disorder in which one is hit with unwanted thoughts that reoccur, making the person affected by it uneasy and distressed. He suppresses sexual urges toward men and women within the book. Along with that, he's filled with anxiety when in physical contact. There are the thoughts that pervade his brain over and over. Harding seems unable to conquer his own conscious mind. Through this obstacle, the elements of OCD are met, just like a real person with the disorder. Electroshock therapy is a favored use of punishment within the system. Psychologically, the employees believed it would cause change in their emotions, in hopes they would obey the ordered rules. McMurphy was a victim of this type of therapy various times a week, and each time he showed no fear. But when Chief Broadman receives the electroshock, he is terrified. During his torture, memories of his childhood are remembered and reassures himself this will be the last therapy he has to go through. The different reactions the two men give to the electroshock therapy helps readers to analyze their two different mental states and how it affects the way they endure pain. The movie Rain Man, directed by Larry Levinson, focuses on the main character, Raymond Babbitt, who is a high-functioning man with autism. This means he has autism, which can make him nonverbal and unable to communicate, but he is a highly intelligent, lacking social skills. Babbitt was institutionalized but later taken out by his brother. This made it difficult for him to adapt to the real world without aid from others. Because he was being held in a mental hospital, Babbitt was trained by repetition of schedule. One can bring the outside world to him inside the walls of the institution, but once he is taken out of it, he is thrown off because his disorder enables him to be a normal member of society. This hospital is all he knows. This movie relates to the novel in various elements. McMurphy manipulated the system and was taken from the jail and transported to the asylum. Although he did not have a mental disorder, he learned how to adapt to the community of handicapped, just as Raymond learns how to adapt enough to society with his type of autism. McMurphy and Raymond's brother Charlie can be compared in the same sense of their similar motives to manipulate people into getting what they want without realization of how it affects that one person. The two men are narcissistic and use that to their ability to establish a higher power. Raymond feels being free in the outside world, although he struggles with the adaptation. Sadly, he ends up being forced to return back to the institution because idealistically it is the proper place for him. McMurphy ends up dying, resulting from intense electroshock therapy because he in fact is not mentally ill. They both battle with being accustomed to different worlds that they did not belong in because of their mental state. Within the literary works, Raymond and McMurphy eventually perish because of their born inabilities. The novel and film have similar themes of freedom and authority. In the novel One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, I believe there were many choices that could have been made, especially by McMurphy. He chooses the easy way out of being at the jail and acting like he needs mental help, placing him into an institution. He was lazy and refused to do his duties in jail, which made him want to escape in any way possible. As a result, he seems it is a permanent way out, but it will end in his perishing. McMurphy was too late to realize because he had no mental disorder. He could not withstand the treatment given to him. Countless times in my life I have wanted an easy way out of things I perceived to be too hard. Like McMurphy too, I have choices. Throughout my life, I watched many people take the easy way out of everyday obstacles. I've witnessed students drop classes because they're too hard, watched athletes give up during tough conditioning practices, and had people tell me they are dropping their major because of financial issues. These things have motivated me to understand that things are going to get difficult. Anyone who does not struggle in their life does not know what life is all about. Hard times need to be served for the good times to follow. I had family members tell me my dream of becoming a physician's assistant is too hard and that it would be impossible to get into the pre-physician's assistant program at the University of Iowa. But along with my acceptance letter in February came my acceptance into the pre-PA program. I get overwhelmed with taking the easy way out and becoming a nurse sometimes, but I will make my dream become a reality through hard work and determination. Like my dad always told me, if you want it bad enough, you will be willing to work for it.